Hello, educational technology enthusiasts. My name is Brittany Hack, and this is my A1 presentation of mobile affordance of Duolingo. What is Duolingo? Duolingo is a language app that uses the translation method. In other words, you are using your native language and the target language to learn. There are various ways to play, and there are some features that you can customize in the game. The biggest thing is that the app is portable, so you can take it any place and at any time. On the surface, Duolingo may seem to be a good addition to a language classroom, but a more detailed picture of how it could or how it should not be used may reveal some shortcomings. We can do this by assessing the affordance that the app provides. In order to do that, we need a definition, and our definition is mobile affordance will refer to the quality or property of an object that defines its possible uses or makes clear how it can or should be used as a mobile app. We also need a theory. Mobile devices may offer more opportunity for students than other types of technology, mainly because of their portability, social interactivity, cognitivity, individuality, among other aspects. And in doing this, I wanted to answer two questions. What level of mobile affordance does Duolingo offer, and how applicable are these affordances to language learning? So I chose four criteria: accessibility, motivation, self-efficacy, and achievement, and interaction. For accessibility, they are four sub-criteria: perceivability, and that the user can understand the app's contents for functionality; operability, in that the user can understand the app's functionality regardless of their ability; understandability, and that the user can comprehend the discourse presented within the app; and robustness, in that the app is available to users regardless of OS system or mobile device in use. And so looking at these a bit further, perceivability, operability, and understandability all relate to the user experience, whereas robustness looks more at the hardware and how the software responds and its ecosystem. So, in order to figure this out, some studies were done. And so Monday did a study on University L2 Spanish speakers and found out that 80% agreed Duolingo is easy to use and helpful. However, beginners found the app more enjoyable versus intermediate students. Fanardi and al. Also did a study on mobile assisted language learning for L2 English learners and found out that there was a gap between overemphasis on vocabulary but an absence of contextualized language, which is so important in ESL because you need a balance with that. The students also wanted face-to-face interaction with native speakers, which Duolingo does not provide. So, in saying that, the leading takeaways are that the learners wanted accessibility that Duolingo does not provide, such as Google Hangouts, WhatsApp, and Skype. Next, motivation. There are two types: intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic is that you are driven by reward internally, whereas extrinsic is that you are driven by reward from external factors. For educational learning, Mallour and Lepper's theory identify 6 elements that may improve motivation: challenges, curiosity, control, cooperation, competition, and recognition, which could possibly form clues to understanding motivation in a mobile environment. Hidayati and Diana conducted studies using University L2 English speakers, and they identified students were enthusiastic about Duolingo, but they were reluctant to use the app's extra features outside of the classroom. Campa's study on elementary L2 English language learners came up quite differently, and they found out that these students were very eager to learn features with multiple language apps. And in fact, they were even willing to experiment with new features because they were motivated by curiosity. So, what this suggests for motivation is that adults and children may have slightly different factors influencing their motivation to use language mobile apps for learning. As well, beginner and intermediate learners may require other forms of motivation to learn. Next, self-efficacy and achievement. Self-efficacy refers to the belief that the user can succeed in accomplishing the objective, whereas achievement is that the user is receiving some form of reward that they have completed the objective. And so when you put these two together, you get what is known as gamification. But what is gamification? Gamification is the method of taking game-like features and incorporating them into a non-game-like setting in an effort to change human behavior. This change is intended to result in improved outcomes such as improved test scores or final grades. Self-efficacy and achievement. So it was Rachel's and Rockinson Sapke that identified that there was no difference between Duolingo users and students being taught with traditional methods when it came to test scores. Wing and al. Also conducted a study too on what would happen with the course when it was gamified. And they identified that the game refinement value of Duolingo was between 0.020 and 0.025. And what that means is that in order for a game to be good, as in measuring sophistication and how fun the game is, it needs to be 0.07 to 0.08. So Duolingo has a long way to go. Also, Wing and al. Identified that beginners enjoyed Duolingo more versus intermediate users. So what this suggests: to increase the degree of gamification of Duolingo, the app must decrease the number of lessons or increase the number of skills in the target course. And they were some things that they have done, such as story mode, expanded levels, and extensions of leagues. But this all needs to be assessed again to see if it has improved anything. Next, interaction. When introducing a mobile device into any learning environment, classroom setting, it is so important to know how will it impact interactions between the student and their teacher. That is something that's always on an educator's mind, I think, when it comes to that. And to push this further, Chi and Fan define this three-way relationship as the mobile inverted constructivism theory, meaning that through a mobile environment, the learner independently is actively generating knowledge of their learning, while the teacher acts as more of a guide. So, Metellia and Metelli conducted an interaction study of Duolingo and identified the majority of language content comes from literature, native speakers, and or advanced language learners. Some evidence of scaffolding was identified, but the problem was that because the communication was delayed, it actually became fragmented. And so what Talia suggested was that Duolingo does not provide enough affordance for using the target language in authentic contexts or in a creative and social manner. And so, what this leads to, mobile educational content needs to have purpose in order to be meaningful, and that language learners require contextual meaning and social interaction for language learning to be meaningful. So, overall, Duolingo offers very low mobile affordance because its mobile features are limited to what is applicable and necessary for language learning. Though the app is very accessible in ease of use and flexibility of mobile platforms, it lacks the types of applicational features required for meaningful real-time language communication. Duolingo does not provide the type of incentives to motivate learners to explore its gaming features independently. The app also does not provide users customization to consider motivational differences among age groups and the skill level of language learners. Self-efficacy and achievement did not change when comparing outcomes of students using Duolingo to those being taught with traditional language learning. Gamification values did not meet the threshold needed to be an attractive and sophisticated game, suggesting learners will likely get bored with Duolingo over a long duration of time. Lastly, Duolingo does not provide the social and creative mobile interaction required for authentic language learning experience with native or fluent L2 speakers. This is not to argue that Duolingo is a bad app for language learning. However, it does draw some important questions that teachers need to consider concerning mobile instructional design, the in-class lesson plan, and pedagogy in order to achieve the desired outcomes for their learners. And so, in saying that, what I did was I constructed some educational questions that would probably be good to ask not only for ESL instructors and teachers, but also for anyone who is interested in the field. And so it's right here. What is the role of the mobile tech in the classroom? How does the tech connect to the lesson plan and the preferred pedagogy? What objectives and or outcomes are being measured with the use of the mobile tech? Are the objectives and or outcomes measurable? What other factors such as bandwidth, policy, equipment, training, etc. need to be considered with the use of mobile tech in the classroom? And this is the end of my presentation.